Welcome back everybody, I am Follygon, and in this video I'm going to be doing a quick digital sculpt of Crash Bandicoot. But before we get in and talk about the process, click that subscribe button if you are new around here, and check out gumroad.com/Follygon for things like my custom brushes, courses, materials, and some other free goodies. So over the past 3 or 4 days here, I've been doing a bunch of digital sculpts each day, just quick little sketches, typically of just a bust or a quick character head or something like that. But this one I took a little bit farther. I spent 2 hours on today's quick sketch, which is a little bit longer than what I'm trying to spend on these. Typically I spend somewhere between 30 minutes, hour at the most, but I woke up really early this morning, so I had a little bit more time. So yeah, like I said, this one took about 2 hours to complete. For those that do not do any digital sculpting or have no reference for how long this kind of thing takes, this is a very unrefined model by the time I'm done with it. I don't capture the likeness of the character perfectly. I more so focus on the main gist of the character, making sure that all the aspects of the character are in there while maintaining true to the original concept art, making sure all the big shapes, landmarks, all the, proportions and all that good stuff are in there correctly. For a reference of how long this would take to get to a place where I was very comfortable with it being, as good as I possibly could, I would probably take, I would say, at least 30 hours on a character like this. Probably a little bit more. I would say it'd be hard to go above 50, but if I was working with a director or an art director of some kind, we could probably push on it pretty far to get that little extra juice out at the end. So yeah, 2 hours really isn't that long for something like this. I feel like I've actually gotten a bit faster recently. With Sculptober, I was doing something every single day for October, which was a really fun challenge. If you guys haven't seen any of those videos, I will put a link to the playlist down in the description, and I'll pop it up on screen for you guys up in the top corner. Even before Sculptober, I was sculpting every single day. I just wasn't sculpting with the intention of focusing on speed. When you are sculpting with speed in mind, you have to focus on large shapes and big changes. Mainly focusing on the silhouette as you would normally for the blockout, which is those initial stages of development that you all know and love, but you kind of have to do that for the entire process. So you can't get in a lot of little details when you only have 2 hours to create an entire character like this. Even though he is a very simple character, people often confuse simple for easy. Like I said before, a really polished digital sculpt of this character, for me at least, would take about 30 hours to get to a place where I was really happy with it. Maybe more, maybe less, to get it to a state where if this was going to be a product that was going to be sold as a little figurine or statue, that is at least the amount of time I'd want to spend there. So that is what, 1/15 the amount of time that I would spend on really polishing this. So you can see that there are a lot of, things that I leave out. I don't really do a lot of fur. There's a lot that ends up just a little bit off in terms of proportions and really capturing the appeal and likeness of the character, but it's close enough to read as Crash, so for most people, they're not going to look at it so closely and be like, well, you got this little part here incorrect, or this little thing here incorrect, etc., etc. Most people just look at this stuff for a few seconds and then get on with their day. But when you're working on something for a product, it has to be absolutely perfect. The people that are paying you to create that 3D artwork want it to be as perfect as possible. And one little thing that's off here and there doesn't seem like a big deal, but that kind of stuff adds up really quick. I often say that digital sculpting, or really sculpting in general, is made up of a lot of little tiny changes that add up to eventually creating big change. That's why I often think that people that are completely new to digital sculpting, they hop in, they typically bite off a little bit more than they can chew, and expect things to kind of come together pretty quick. Well, sculpture as a medium is a really slow process, and things just don't really come together that way. Unfortunately for all of us. That's why for this quick sketch, as I mentioned, I have to do things like use a couple shortcuts. So I didn't sculpt these hands completely from scratch, at least not today. This is a part of a custom brush that I created a number of years ago and continue to revise. I recently showed it off in another one of my sketch videos, but having little things like that you've created in the past that you can use for future projects to speed up your workflow is really nice when you are not really going to be focusing on creating these hyper-specific hands, but you are more so just trying to get something on your canvas pretty quick, make a few changes to it, and get it pretty close to read as the character's hand. Same thing there with the eyes. As you saw, I kept those very triangular. Normally I try to keep my character's eyes nice and round, and if I spent a little bit more time working on this, I probably could have made that work and adjusted the eyelids to get that shape to feel a little bit more triangular. But here, at least, it was just a lot faster to go about the process that way. You can see that I didn't even paint the character's eyes. I did this in kind of a janky way a little bit, but this process actually works really well for 3D printing, for creating separate objects for that part of the eye, and just kind of creating a really quick, cartoony, stylized, and painted up eye there with a couple gradients and all that other good stuff. It's just a really quick process that gets something on the canvas and kind of reads as the general eye shape, eye color, etc. from a distant read, but if you look in a little bit more closely, it kind of looks maybe a little bit awkward because it has those extra cast shadows from that additional form. I've also talked a lot about posing for these quick sketches in the past for Sculptober. There's a lot of little tiny tricks that you can do to make things feel a little bit asymmetric, so they're not quite as boring as a character just standing in a T pose or an A pose or, whatever neutral pose you're going with. For Crash here, that looks like just offsetting the legs and arms slightly, rotating the head a little bit down, adjusting some asymmetry with the ears and facial features, adjusting the eyes slightly, raising up part of one brow, sculpting on a little part of the face to add some more asymmetry. When I listen to myself, it sounds like I'm naming a lot of stuff, but really this is not very much of a huge change to the character. They're very small tweaks, but they are just enough to kind of add up to a big enough change that the character reads quite a bit more natural than if they were just completely symmetrical. I do some final finishing touches here to the character's body and hair and a couple other areas, but other than that, that is pretty much it here for today's quick sketch of Crash Bandicoot. Hope you guys enjoyed the process and have been enjoying the quicker sketches each day. If you are new around here, click that subscribe button. And if you want to learn more about digital sculpting, check out my course, The Appeal Academy. There's a link down in the description, as well as a link to my online store where you can find things like my custom brushes, materials, and a bunch of other free goodies. That's going to be all for this one. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.